Besides that rather poor intro, let's start off our fists only run. I'd like to kick it off with our fists only run, but sadly enough I can't do any kicking whatsoever. And now it is rules time. First off, any and all weapons and damage types are excluded to me except for my bare fist. If I'm not using that, then I'm not playing the game right. And no, enemies that die from their own machinations or their stupidity does not qualify as me failing this run. It's not my job to save their lives. And what categorizes as me using my bare fist does include backstabs and reposts. Do you see me shoving anything other than my fist up this pig's ass? The second rule is that cheating is a big no-no, but glitches are available as long as they are within the current patch, which is what I am playing. If everyone can do it, then it's not really cheating. And the third and final rule is that dungeons will be available to me to use for whatever reason I like. If I'm going to farm for blood echoes, I'm not going to do it robbing the peasants of Yharnam. They're not worth my time, nor my effort. So with all of the rules set and everything said, let us begin this very, very long and irritating challenge. Like all great journeys, we wake up to an old man confronting us about our alcoholism. Don't worry, sir. I don't have a problem whatsoever. Just ask my wife for confirmation. And if she says otherwise, don't worry, she's quite clumsy. She might have forgotten after falling down the stairs. He then disappears from existence after refusing to buy my rather compelling explanation, and I start tripping on acid. Bada bing bada boom, and we finally have control over our character. Since I already had a taste of what my fist damage looked like, I decided to strip myself naked since I was already unarmed and not dangerous whatsoever. We then meet the townspeople of Yharnam and they greet us with all due British ceremony, making this the first official death of the run. Don't worry, there are many more to come. We then get transported into the hunter's dream, come to the realization that we have as many blood echoes as clothes on our body, and then quickly skedaddle to the exits. Oh, don't worry, it doesn't get better from here on out. We then pick up a Molotov I can't use, break the back of a giant, and then get our back broken by said giant. 3 deaths, and we haven't even encountered the first boss. Yay. After that, I decided to take the game seriously and stop fiddling around by opening up shortcuts and talking to NPCs. I was speaking to some little girls about how much they missed their father, then I went to go kill their father. It was at this moment that I realized I should have named myself Arthur Morgan, because I am a good man. For the Father Gascoigne fight, I decided to use the tiny music box for a grand total of 3 reasons. The first is that it allows me to get 3 backstabs on Father Gascoigne at the beginning of the fight with relative safety and ease. The second reason is that it forces Father Gascoigne to transition into his 3rd phase, meaning that it would be easier for me to understand and recognize and learn his patterns. And the third and final reason being that the tiny music box deals 0 damage to Father Gascoigne, meaning that he will be hurt by nothing and die by nothing except for my bare fists. But hey, what am I saying? It's not like you can beat Father Gascoigne any other way than attacking him yourself. It's not like through him transitioning into his 3rd phase and doing a leaping attack, he can actually jump outside of the map and kill himself like that. It's definitely not like I tried it or anything multiple times and failed and then had to resort to using my fists. Definitely not. So after definitely not failing to get Father Gascoigne to jump out of the map and definitely not getting pinned in the corner by his big, furry, muscular body, I was able to learn 2 things. The first thing that I learned by looking at Father Gascoigne's HP is that I would require 10 backstabs to beat him. The second thing that I learned is that in Father Gascoigne's 3rd phase, his leap into the air attack doesn't just help him fall out of the map, but it also leaves him just open enough for you to perform a backstab on him. The only issue is it's rather inconsistent since Father Gascoigne could either leap further than he typically would or leap shorter than you would have expected. But there is a way to counteract this method and it's by standing up against a wall. If you're standing up against a wall, Father Gascoigne will have no choice but to land directly on top of you, meaning that all you would have to do is take 2 steps back and then get yourself prepared to perform the backstab. But the window to perform the backstab isn't very long after he does the leap attack, and the leap attack's radius is rather questionable. And after dying to Father Gascoigne 31 times on my 32nd attempt, I was able to finally get my 10 consecutive backstabs on him. On my winning attempt, it took me 3 minutes and 6 seconds to beat Father Gascoigne, but if we are including the run back time as well as all of the battles, it took me 1 hour, 57 minutes, and 13 seconds to get the victory. It sounds bad now, but trust me, it gets worse from here. Moving forward, we talk to some NPCs, put on some clothes, and opt out of the Cleric Beast battle, at least for the time being. And since we can't afford to buy the key from the Hunter's Dream to get to Vicar Amelia, we're gonna have to go the long route. And to do that, we're gonna have to challenge the blood-starved beast. Now you guys already know the routine. Second verse, same as the first. We run away, we die, we challenge the boss and try not to glitch him, then we die, and occasionally touching little things in the corner before getting violently touched to death. So this is how the boss battle with the blood-starved beast went down. He does this massive swing attack that takes an absurdly lengthy period of time to recover from, and we utilize that time to run up behind him, have a tea break, find some fossils as decrepit as the blood-starved beast himself, and then shove it straight up his ass. In my winning battle against the blood-starved beast, I initiate the fight by pointing and laughing at him for taking Ozempic, then immediately backtrack and regret my statements after realizing that he is suffering from anorexia. We then go on a mental and spiritual journey seeking professional assistance. And when that journey came to an end, finding both inner peace and mental stability, I then decided to eradicate all progress by backstabbing the blood-starved beast 14 times, resulting in his death. Wow, how fitting that in a game about dreams and nightmares, we did nothing but waste a bunch of time. Oh yeah, and the results for the boss battle against the blood-starved beast was that I died 13 times, our winning attempt took us 6 minutes and 13 seconds, and the total time including the run back took us 1 hour, 34 minutes and 5 seconds. Make no mistake, I did not kill the blood-starved beast because he was taking Ozempic. I did not kill the blood-starved beast because he was an anorexic. I did not even kill him because he was mentally healthy now. I killed him because he is a ginger. We then make our grand return back to the Cathedral Ward, find that the Chamber of Secrets has now opened up to us, and realize that gravity is as much our friend as Jeffrey Epstein is to children. We find ourselves an umbilical cord as a surprise tool that'll help us later. Move around the abandoned workshop with as much grace as an alcoholic chimpanzee, and then find ourselves a werewolf that werewolves differently from other werewolves. And after that incident, I decided to head over to Hemwick Charnel Lane to challenge and best the Witches of Hemwick. And if any of you guys are thinking, why am I playing the game within this specific manner? I will use my STD-ridden urethra to piss hot fire into your dinner. I proceed to take a sigh of relief as I'll be battling one of the easiest bosses in the entirety of BloodBorne, forget that I'm playing the game BloodBorne, and then get blasted in my ass multiple times by the Witches of Hemwick for being factually incorrect. In the end, on my victory attempt, I gave the first witch 4 backshots to ensure the spawn of the second witch. I then proceeded to give the second witch all 6 backshots, taking her out of the fight, and then returned back to the first witch to deliver the last 2. The results for my battle against the Witches of Hemwick is that I died to the boss 6 times, it took me 5 minutes and 7 seconds on my winning attempt, and it took me an overall time of 28 minutes and 14 seconds including the run back. Believe it or not, we're making substantial improvements. It didn't take me over an hour to beat 2 elderly ladies this time around. If that's not progress, I don't know what is. But that is where all of our progress comes to a halt, because the only way to continue forward is by battling the boss, Vicar Amelia. Boss, we cannot backstab, and there is no other way around her. There isn't a single other method to get past Vicar Amelia, and even if there was, we'd have to battle the Shadows of Yharnam, a gang boss. A boss that groups up against you, a boss with 2 melee fighters and 1 ranged. A boss that even though backstabbing is possible, it is improbable to do so simply because of how grouped up they are and how quick they are to react to your attacks. But fortunately for us, we have rule number 3. And why do we have rule number 3? Because I'm a bitch. So it was at this point that I decided to do a tiny bit of farming in the Cum Dungeon. We returned back to Yharnam to get a taste for our new damage and to tie up loose ends. And I decided that the first thing that we should start with is by besting the Cleric Beast. Now the Cleric Beast is the first boss we can't actually backstab to death, so do you guys know what that means? That's right. It's time for us to strap in and start punching. After some time, I was able to force a knockdown. Sadly, I regained consciousness and realized that my brain wasn't hemorrhaging enough, so I actually started battle with the Cleric Beast. Thankfully, due to the few levels we were able to scrap together, we were able to best the Cleric Beast without dying a single time, and to top it all off, we finished it in 1 minute and 6 seconds. But we're not done in Yharnam just yet. After all, I have to go tell some little girls about how their mommy and daddy are dead. Don't worry, this isn't the last time we'll be terrorizing this family. Oh yeah, and before I did any of the leveling, I picked up the Canehurst summons and I was attacked by a child predator and his dog. Man's best friend my ass. I was then taken into a dungeon and placed into a cell, but since the cell door wasn't locked, I was able to freely leave. I believe that they left the cell unlocked on purpose. After all, they wouldn't want anything above the age of 12 to be trapped in their prison. It was during this time that I met Dark Beast Barl and even died to him. But that's insignificant now. What's important is our reunion. Fighting Dark Beast Parl is like fighting a giant star. He shines brightly, his movements are fast and smooth, and while touching him is near impossible, you will always remain within his grasp. But even titans must fall. After all, it's not like they could have stopped themselves from going to that island. So after 4 additional deaths, bringing our total death count against Dark Beast Parl to 5, we were able to gather enough evidence to convict him right next to Diddy. To get the guilty verdict, it took us 3 minutes and 12 seconds, but the overall time to compile it all together required 16 pieces of evidence and 11 children to come forward with their eyewitness testimony. After that, I speak to someone I've never spoken to in any of my playthroughs, return back to the Cathedral Ward, and then enter the Grand Cathedral where Vicar Amelia is waiting with her furry body pleading to be pounced upon. At one point, when I was ready to plunge my fist into her, I thought I was about to plummet into an endless abyss. Fortunately, that was not the case, and with one last thrust for good measure, I was able to finish her off in 1 minute and 14 seconds. After that, in order to calm myself down, I started watching 2 old men talking to one another. Yes, it's as riveting as it sounds. And while feeling extremely confident in my capabilities, it led me to participate in battles against hunters, which was an extremely stupid decision. But do not fear, there is more idiocy to come. And this is where we make the worst decision of our entire lives, by entering the hunter's nightmare. I knew it was going to be bad, but oh my god! I did not think it was going to be this bad! It's one thing to hear your homeboy shit the bed. It's another thing to be in the bed while they're shitting in it! Okay, now that all of that is said, you guys are probably wondering, am I done making my whiny noises? Yup. Will I be making them again? Oh, very soon. Everything about the Hunter's Nightmare from the beginning to the very end was nothing but an atrocious abomination. And you will all firmly grasp that notion when we encounter the first boss of the DLC, Ludwig the Accursed. Now I could complain about how cruel, unforgiving, and ruthless the boss battle was. I could tell you guys about how close I got on several occasions only for the hitboxes to turn into the equivalent of something you'd find out of Dark Souls 2. I could curl up into a ball and fear getting dicked down by another horsecock for the rest of my life. But I refuse to do any of that, and instead I'll explain what I did to best the boss. Now there are 3 methods of going at Ludwig the Accursed. The first is the normal method, just enter the boss arena. The second is the glitch method, which I did not do. And the third is the very glitched method, which I really did not do. Now, to not do the glitch method, what you have to do is face a right angle, hug the shit out of a wall, and stand at the very edge of the prompt to enter the boss arena. If you do it all right, then you will be inside of a pillar, and you could very well fall through the map. It is at this point that I tell you to run, bitch, run. And if you performed it all successfully, the boss should definitely not be standing still, and the glitch would have never worked. Now this glitched method only works for the first phase. If you want to beat the entirety of the boss without him fighting back whatsoever, what you have to do is the very glitch method, which I really did not do, because that would have required me to hold a weapon in my hand and attach a gem slot. Yes, I would have been rolling into the boss for roughly 20 minutes and never have used that weapon, but it still has to be in my hand because the gem slot is doing all of the work. But with all of that being said, we should start speaking about how we face this boss. For the first phase, I refused to fight the first phase. So skipping to the second phase, which is what I always did, the best approach to handling it is to stick close and stay on his right side. It doesn't make the fight easier, it just makes you not want to tear out your fingernails. Now jumping to the end of the fight, I had died to Ludwig the Accursed a total of 50 times, and it took me 7 minutes and 23 seconds to claim victory. Now both of those numbers sound bad already, but I haven't even talked about the run back and the loading screens, making up the total time, which was 6 hours and 4 minutes. I just want to make it clear that you guys do not have to worry about my mental state or my anger management. I didn't bash a hole in my wall or eviscerate my controller. I simply chucked my head at cement until something gave way. Now it's time for me to talk about the research hall. It sucked. Entering the boss arena for the living failures, the first half of the fight was me trying to get them into backstabbing position. The second half of the fight was them getting into position for me. And after 11 backstabs and 4 minutes and 46 seconds, the living failures go down, and I didn't even die a single time. But little did I know, this was moments before disaster. I returned back to the research hall to tie up a few loose ends. And that is all I will say about this section ever again. And now, it is time to witness the sole cause behind the evisceration of my mind. Entering the Astral Clock Tower, we must do battle with Lady Maria. Now I already knew that battling against hunters was gonna be rough, but I never expected that after a certain point I would start pleading that I found a glitch. Spoiler alert, I never found one. Now I know a lot of this fight can get boiled down to stick to her right side, but even then I found myself getting railed so hard that I couldn't see straight. Because even that tactic is rendered useless the moment she enters her second phase, because her hitbox radius is half the fucking arena. It also doesn't help that she can one-shot you with many of her attacks, whether it be through combos or because you're a blundering fucking dumbass who thought he could dodge. And that's only me talking about the first two phases. In the third phase, fire can bite you on the ass like it's a rabid fucking chihuahua, which can throw off your entire combo, and it has an even worse hitbox radius than Lady fucking Maria! And if all of that wasn't bad enough already, the fire can also make you stagger, as if you're an old man tripping over a coffee table, preparing himself to meet his maker. Now I just want to say that Lady Maria is one of my favorite fights of all time in this entire game. But with my left hand missing both my switch and my meat, this was utter torture. A torture I could not break away from even for a moment because my lantern was right outside the boss arena. So with all of that being said, after 7 backstabs and 176 deaths, Lady Maria finally goes down. Our winning attempt took us 5 minutes and 5 seconds, and the overall time, including all of the battles, took 6 hours, 44 minutes, and 47 seconds. And now it is time for the fishing hamlet. An NPC gives us a key to challenge another NPC who wants to kill us for reasons. But all of that was rendered inconsequential, because the moment I saw an enemy hunter, I went to the weakest one I could find, which also happens to be its origin, and slapped him into oblivion. After that, we did a bit of running around, yada yada yada, Orphan of Kos time. Now, this is the point where I'd start whining about the Orphan of Kos and how challenging it was, and to some degree, that does ring true, especially with his questionable hitbox radius. But to my surprise, it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be, especially since he leaves himself so open to getting cheesed with backstabs. But outside of that, there isn't really much to say about the Orphan of Kos. I simply baited out the attacks that I wanted and ran from all the rest. And after dying to the boss 48 times, I was finally able to land my 11 backstabs, putting this orphan on the ground with the rest of his family. Somehow, out of all of the bosses I fought in the DLC thus far, this guy was the second easiest. On my winning attempt against the Orphan of Kos, it took me 5 minutes and 23 seconds, but the overall time, including the run back, took me 2 hours, 49 minutes, and 49 seconds. After defeating the Orphan of Kos, I went back to the start of the DLC, fought Lawrence, died, said fuck the DLC, went back to the main game, fought Rom, died, said fuck the main game, then went to Cainhurst Castle. Nothing of note happened during our exploration of Cainhurst Castle until we encountered Marla Garius, who was looking extremely submissive and very much readable. I mean, just look at him, waving around that wand, running away whenever I get too close, poking me on occasion. What a tease. He had tried to resist my very persuasive effort and was successful on 3 separate accounts, but on my 4th attempt, he had succumbed to his desires, as I had succumbed to my own. But after giving Marligarius 4 of the most devious backshots he has ever received, he goes down in 3 minutes and 14 seconds. But that was only for the final round. Including all the rounds, it took me 14 minutes and 7 seconds. Would you guys consider Marligarius a really old man or a skeleton? That way I know what to title it when I put this video on the hub. Dumbledore gets his poo door pushed in, or corpse pounding. Either way I'm putting it under necrophilia. Now it is time to go back to Bergenworth and fight Rom, the very hungry caterpillar, who has slaves that do all of his bidding. I wish I had wait, no. We die a couple of times bum rushing Rom before I admit that his minions are a bit too much for me to handle, and I did it the pathetic method, taking out the minions first, then attacking Rom. After 16 deaths of learning Rom's vicious attack pattern, I bested him in 8 minutes and 18 seconds. But that was just my victory attempt. Of course the overall time is much greater, at 52 minutes and 34 seconds. Yeah, the minions were that great of a challenge. We see a lady just standing there, menacingly. The moon. And now we're back in Yharnam to finish up those errands. We stumble upon a pig who has happened to devour a little girl. I wonder what could have been the catalyst to set off such a tragic incident. We take what remains of her and bring it to her beloved sister. You know, in the hopes that she can gain some closure. She decided that the closure we had to offer wasn't the one that she desired, so she made her own. And I felt accomplished. After all, I have completed everything I set out to do in Yharnam. We find ourselves in... I don't know how to pronounce that part. We find ourselves in Yahar Ghul. And might I say, this place is greatly reminiscent of getting a urethral swab. It is a painful experience unlike any other. But whatever, skipping over all of that noise, it is now time for the One Reborn. And I found myself raging to a degree I simply never thought possible. Was it the fact that I had to battle the minions at the beginning of every single time I challenged him? Was it the fact that it was an excruciatingly long run back? Or maybe it was the fact that he was using his little, big legs to constantly kick me. I don't know, there's something about getting kicked in the fucking face that makes you want to smash your dick into jagged glass. It just has a sort of effect on people. But after dying to the One Reborn 24 times, I did something I never thought I would do for any of the bosses. I went back to the dungeons. And after making my pitifully triumphant return, I bested the One Reborn after 4 minutes and 49 seconds. Oh yeah, and the grand total time for besting the One Reborn was 1 hour, 55 minutes, and 28 seconds. I wish I was able to kick. That way I could kick the One Reborn in his 17 different rows of jagged teeth. Or, you know, get a circumcision, whichever comes first. We touch a corpse, enter the lecture building, and head over to the Nightmare Frontier. There isn't much to say at this point, since poison crawled up my anus, entered my mouth, and made my tongue extremely numb. And now it is time to do battle against Amygdala. And Amygdala dies after 7 minutes and 30 seconds. Poor Amygdala didn't even stand a chance. We make our way to the Nightmare of Mensis. Find ourselves giants, spiders, giant spiders, and femboy twinks. Skipping a little bit ahead, the boss decides to show me his doll collection. I fucking hate these stupid dolls. All they do is interrupt the non-existent combat experience I'm trying to immerse myself in against this clear bottom. After refusing to play with the dolls, he throws a hissy fit. Mikolash then ran away and screamed something to the effect of, and I do quote, "You cannot catch me, for I am the gingerbread man." Something inside me broke at this point. I was infuriated to no end, and when I got Mikolash into a corner, I gently and tenderly whispered into his ear, "You are not too fat nor too ugly to get this dick up your ass, old man." He then proceeded to apologize for his outburst, which did not stop me from shoving my dick. After receiving the 4 backshots of doom, Mikolash gives the lengthiest scream of his existence and finally goes down after 10 minutes and 30 seconds. That must have been the best 10 minutes and 30 seconds of what was his life. We head over to the Upper Cathedral Ward, and it is at this point that I realize that I am making substantial progress in my gameplay without too much difficulty. And while I was feeling proud of myself, I wasn't nearly as happy as when I was sharing my kindness with the Gascoigne family, so I decided to share my benevolence with the orphans. But why the orphans are considered celestial is a bit beyond my comprehension. So just like every other school playground, the children gang up on me. But in order to establish my dominance, I start beating up the biggest one in the yard. I had to ensure not to show any weakness, after all these kids can sense fear, as well as their parents' abandonment. After 11 minutes and 13 seconds, the celestial emissary goes down, exactly where his parents had wanted him. After that, we did battle with Abritius, the daughter of the Cosmos. And was she attractive? Kinda. But she was not attractive enough when compared to Lawrence, the first vicar, who we reunited with because I couldn't make any progress on Abritius for shit. But of course, Lawrence was still too hot for me, so I had to make a grand return back to the dungeon to get my HP at max. Now you're probably wondering, did my tactic work? Well, yeah, it's not like I could have done anything else to stack the deck in my favor, so. 32 deaths later, and Lawrence decides that gliding around on his non-existent ass isn't worth the trouble of trying to kill me. It took 18 minutes and 13 seconds for my victorious attempt, and for the total time, it took 3 hours, 1 minute, and 11 seconds. Yes, I am not calculating difficulty based on deaths, I'm calculating it based on time. And now we're back at Abritius, the last optional boss before we return to the main game for the final time. Her charging attack was the most annoying to deal with, but every time she wanted to bash her skull against the entire frame of my body, it was the greatest moment of my life since I got bonus damage. On her, not myself. I considered the possibility that she might be a musical enthusiast due to all of her headbanging and she was trying to match up with the OST. But I second guessed that idea since her headbangs weren't matching up with the beat drops. So either my initial assumption was entirely fabricated, or she fucking sucks at matching up her headbangs with the beat of the song. What a shame she couldn't sync up with anyone. 17 deaths later, and Abritius decides to return home after 11 minutes and 48 seconds, where she proceeded to get the lecture of a lifetime from the Cosmos the moment she entered. The total time I had to endure Abritius' belligerent ways was 2 hours, 28 minutes, and 26 seconds. But I am certain that her father is going to make the runtime she gave me look like child's play. And now that that sensual slug has been slayed, we can return back to the main game since all optional bosses have been completed, bringing a close to this long run. We head over to Murgo's loft and see several shadows, which we quickly run past. I didn't fight them fair the first time, I'm not gonna start now. And of course at Murgo's loft we encounter a baby, who is guarded by Murgo, the wet nurse. And since I am a professional at this point with utilizing my hands, I immediately got down to business by getting touchy with her backside until she felt uncomfortable enough to hand me her resignation papers. And after 13 minutes and 59 seconds, Murgo, unable to handle the strain of the job, had made the decision to quit on the spot. Or at least that is how I interpreted it when she spat in my face and informed me that she will beat me in court. When it comes to this wet nurse, you can consider me the Terminator. You might as well call me Arnold Schwarzenegger. No. I feel like I'll make some kind of mistake. After that, we do some miscellaneous tasks, try to find some semblance of love in this arduous journey, and return back to the arms of an old man. We were born of the old men, made men by the old men, and undone by the old men. Fear the old men. And so begins the final battle before we reach the end of the game. Gehrman, the first hunter. Had I known he was not a paraplegic this entire time, and that he was going to be one of my final obstacles, I would have thrown him off the wheelchair from the beginning of the battle and started beating him with it. After all, you know what they say. Whoever is first in the field and awaits the coming of the enemy will be fresh for the fight. And winner, winner, chicken dinner. Sun Tzu. Gehrman, with his newfound ability of walking, taught me a valuable lesson. If I ever come in contact with an old man and he is utilizing a walking stick, do not trust him. He is simply trying to get me in close so I'd fall into his trap. So the best thing I should do is to toss that walking stick straight into the woods. Gehrman's attacks were quick, his damage was not half bad, and his reaction speed was pissing me off. Gehrman, you're doing this whole battle thing wrong. After you do your attack, you're supposed to stay put long enough for me to do a counter on you. That's how it works. That's how an exchange is supposed to happen. You're not supposed to move faster than I can get to you after you perform your attacks. That's just bullshit. After making my whiny bitch noises some more, I give Gehrman a chiropractic readjustment and ensure this time around that he was unable to move from the waist down. Actually, I don't think he's able to move from the neck down. Actually, I don't think he's moving at all. I don't hear him breathing. It seems that 5 chiropractic readjustments over the span of 7 minutes and 36 seconds was too much for the old fuck. Well, that's what he gets after killing me 4 times. And the total amount of time that elapsed since the very beginning of this battle was 1 hour, 1 minute, and 30 seconds. Bringing a grueling end to this vicious run. Of course, we still got some tentacle action waiting for us. Moon presence time! In between the spastic movements, the jumping around, the twirling, and the tentacle lashes, he decided to toss his special sauce all over my body, and then recite to me the lyrics of Kanye's latest hit. Let me be clear, it isn't that Kanye is a bad artist, or that the moon presence was doing a terrible job reciting the lyrics. It was gaining the information about the cousin periodically receiving fellatio that ruptured my eardrums and put me on 1 HP. And just like Kanye, even though the moon presence had scarred me once, I still found myself back at his doorstep. It took me 8 minutes and 28 seconds to top this tentacle monster off, but for me to reconcile with this traumatic experience, it took me 1 cold shower, 1 solid weep on the bathroom floor, and 13 minutes and 54 seconds. And that brings us to the end of this vicious and lengthy run. Can you beat BloodBorne with your fists only? 100%. Should you do it? Only if you're a masochist and an idiot, which I am only one of. But never underestimate my mastery of stupidity. Even though I am unranked in masochism, you will no longer question my capabilities when you witness me put all of my utensils within the microwave. But, with all of that being said, and with this run coming to its inevitable conclusion, it is time for me to return back to my cave, until I decide on another challenge run, which you will all be waiting in anticipation for, and I will be postponing for several years to come. Wait a minute. Oh no. Oh my god. Holy fuck!